Welcome to I Zero Trust What You Are Saying, your can't miss monthly blast of the freshest, hottest Zero Trust news and game-changing insights brought to you by the Zero Trust Journey podcast. We've done the digging. All sources are linked in the show notes. Our hosts break down the news and share expert insights to keep you ahead in Zero Trust. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Zero Trust Journey podcast. This is the segment where we call it Don't Trust What You're Saying, or we Zero Trust What You're Saying. This is a curated news articles that we picked up from April, and we're going to go through it one by one so you don't have to go through and comb the internet. With me, I have Zach Pugh, co-host, and Elna's Zero Trust Journey podcast. Elna's, I'm going to hand it off to you.
On, we are unpacking the latest Zero Trust developments from federal compliance milestones and cloud-native evolution to how AI is shaping access decisions and where the industry may have gone off track. Let's dive in. Our first headline today comes from Meritop, highlighting a major federal milestone that we're going to share with you. Defense Information Systems Agency just hit 152 out of 152 Zero Trust capability outcomes. Well, that is a full compliance with the DoD's entire framework. What makes this significant is that it provides defense agencies with a comprehensive Zero Trust solution and also establishes an example for early adoption of advanced security frameworks across the government sector. I'm particularly impressed by the scale of this achievement because we all know how implementing Zero Trust at the DoD level presents enormous challenges given their complex infrastructure and strict security requirements. Gentlemen, what do you think about this development? Does this signal a new era for government cybersecurity implementation?
Yeah, I can go first. When I see and read the part really kind of hooked me to continue reading this one is that DoD Zero Trust strategy, it started in 2022 and they went from target to advanced. That's not something that we see a whole lot, especially in government sector where they are actually ahead of the curve. So we're always lagging behind, or the framework or the approach is set by the enterprise or commercial side and the government is following it. This is one unique place where I am pleasantly surprised and excited when I see this, that the DO is actually paving the path for us to see. They started with the target, achieved all 91 capabilities. Now they're into the advanced level where they have 152. So, Zach, I don't know what's your take on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was impressed initially when we saw the success of flank speed, and this really builds on that in terms of momentum. So I just love seeing the progress in this space here. I don't necessarily think it signals a new era. I think this is just natural progression of what we've seen in the already successful implementations within the Department of Defense, and just looking forward to what's next.
That's great. So next up, we have an interesting piece from Federal News Network featuring Zscaler's VPN, focusing on the transformation of federal agency security approaches. And the article highlights the significant shift from a traditional perimeter-based security to more focused strategies centered on users and devices. What caught my attention here is Podin's emphasis on granting access only when needed and continuous essentials. This represents a fundamental change in how security is approached today, moving from old castle model to something for more dynamic and responsive, and some might call it too aggressive. I believe this shift is too long overdue, especially as work environments become increasingly distributed. Podin is advocating for agencies to modernize their security approaches to align with current threats, which is critical in today's landscape. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think agencies are moving quickly enough to match today's threat landscape?
Yeah, I think there's been a strong intent to adapt. However, the intent is to move quickly, there's the actual pace of comprehensive information across complex agency environments versus the rapid evolution of the threat landscape. It's this constant race, and agencies are making a lot of strides here. We're seeing that. We're just talking about what the DoD is doing, but on the FedCiv side as well. And it's driven by pretty clear risks. And achieving a state of consistently outpacing these threats is an ongoing and pretty insurmountable challenge for agencies today. But, these dual benefits that we see of increased security and better user experience, they're strong motivators for agencies to continue to move quicker, adopt, more robust security strategies through zero trust. These are strong motivators.
I like the part where in this news article, they mentioned the two-step path to zero trust transformation. We covered that in one of our podcasts, Zach, where what is the path looks like? Where do I start? How do I start? Which is a common question asked by anyone who's starting their journey with zero trust or evolving their journey with zero trust. Like, where do I start? This is so much. And this all sounds good on paper, but what is my next immediate step? So in this news, I see that Patton advised a two-step approach to zero trust transformation. One is that you revolve around the user access. And I think I strongly believe that because everything which is my asset, hardware or software, my access to applications, what I'm doing tied to the user identity from the enterprise. So starting there, it gives you a really good roadmap and some sort of comfort as well that you're starting a journey with zero trust, something that you can be tactical attack and tactical achieve as well. So I like that part. And the second is they also talk about the workloads and all. A lot of the companies who are SMB and they have secure by design first in their mind, or they're using IT to leverage to apply some of the zero trust. I think this article really highlights that part as well. If you have workloads and you have mature IT, but you don't have mature zero trust strategy, or you don't have not implemented, start this two-step process. You have a decent roadmap carved out for you.
Great point. Our third article comes from CIO.com discussing the challenges of VPNs in today's security environment. The piece highlights why organizations are increasingly finding traditional VPN solutions inadequate for modern security needs. This is particularly relevant as companies transition to more distributed work models. VPNs were designed for a different era of networking, and their limitations are becoming more apparent every day, from performance issues to security gaps that can be exploited by sophisticated attacks. The article suggests that these limitations are a key driver behind the accelerating adoption of zero trust architectures, which offer more granular control and continuous verification. What is your take on the future of VPNs? Are they becoming absolute, or they still have a place in modern security architecture?
I'll go first on this one since I come from the network security background. I have strong opinions when it comes to VPN. I think VPNs were great when it was that approach where we have the data center and you assign one laptop, you take it home, and the night you have to log in to either connect to the data center or you have an application on-prem. But if you look at today, like modern productivity, like especially emails, tell me who's still running Exchange it has to be Exchange. Who's running Exchange on-prem anymore? Or the critical applications who are still running on-prem? One way or the other, you are running that in cloud. So VPN doesn't make sense. Yes, some smarty pants in the audience is going to challenge me and say, when you connect from your computer to the cloud, just-in-time access is another form of VPN. Absolutely. I agree with you. But the implicit access and trust with VPN, I think that needs to go away. That I connect to my VPN. Now I have routes to 17 different subnets or 70 different subnets. And it never just goes away. Once I have access, I have access. That's about it. Just in time access, when I need to the application, sure, it builds that tunnel, gives me access to the application, but it times out automatically, quickly times out, and it still has the granular reporting and granular access sitting at the middleware. So in my opinion, the traditional VPNs are dead. We're going to name it something differently, or it's going to be just-in-time network access, whatever you want to call it. But the traditional way of VPN is, yes, it's challenging and it has no place today in this modern era of the cloud and everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just based on the trends and risks that were highlighted here, the traditional VPNs, and I want to highlight traditional because, of course, there's always going to be people who disagree with the statements, but traditional VPNs are rapidly heading towards death. And as a primary tool specifically for like secure access in modern enterprises and government agencies, and it's because they present significant security risks. They actively, consistently targeted by attackers, and they cause performance issues. So, ZTNA, modern type ZTNA offers a far more secure, granular, and user-friendly alternative by directly connecting your users to applications instead of over-provisioning and potentially exposing a broader network surface. So we'll see VPNs linger for some very specific, some isolated use cases, even some compliance frameworks that require VPNs as a gate to it, even though those should be updated. Coming from a compliance guy, if there's people in the government listening, please get rid of those as requirements there. But I don't think they hold a strategic place for forward-looking security architecture that prioritizes zero trust.
And again, you said it right. The VPN is going to be more B2B, where my providers, my suppliers, the processor, I have VPN with them because I need to process like faster, or I can't have like just-in-time access, maybe. But B2C, there is no place for that.
Next up, the Cloud Security Alliance has published a fascinating piece arguing that traditional zero trust models may actually be sufficient for modern cloud environments. This is a bold stance that challenges the current cybersecurity unanimity. The CSA is advocating for AI-driven threat detection and decentralized identity management, suggesting we need to move toward adaptive trust models that can handle the dynamic nature of the cloud workloads. I personally find this perspective refreshing. And as much as we discuss zero trust as the gold standard, we should recognize it's not the final evolution of security. Cloud environments, they create unique challenges that were not part of the traditional or original zero trust conception. Does this article challenges your thinking about zero trust in cloud environments? Where do you see the next evolution of the cloud security heading?
Author Sayali, I think, covered it really beautifully towards the end of this article in a summary that zero trust is not a silver bullet. AI on top in the industry is happening. We are using it. There's going to be more use cases. I think through this article, she's trying to convey to the decision makers and leaders that don't consider zero trust as something that you can ignore everything else going around you. Like, I don't know, what's your take on it after reading this news and article?
Yeah, I don't think it challenges my core thinking as much as it reinforces and adds some critical nuance to the discussion. Zero trust provides an essential foundation with least privilege, continuous verification, but the unique characteristics of cloud with dynamic workloads, ephemeral resources, these demand an evolution. And the next step, as CSA does suggest in the article, is about building on top of that zero trust foundation. Greater infusion of AI-driven threat detection, adaptive response, more sophisticated and decentralized identity management, which has boomed pretty significantly recently, and comprehensive data security that protects data in all stages, including in use via confidential computing. So I think this is just signaling a move towards truly context-aware and adaptive trust models that can dynamically respond in this ever-changing cloud environment.
Moving to the next one, Wipro recently published a wrap-up of the DoD Zero Trust Symposium highlighting 3 key trends. What stood out to me was the emphasis on zero trust as a cultural shift rather than just a technological change. The symposium also highlighted data-centric security approaches and emphasized the importance of public-private collaboration. These elements reflect a maturing understanding of what it takes to implement zero trust effectively across complex organizations. They even underscored the evolving nature of cybersecurity and the need for adaptive strategies that can respond to changing threat landscapes. This kind of flexibility is essential for long-term security effectiveness. How important do you think the cultural aspects of zero trust are compared to the technological implementations? One succeeds without the other.
Yeah, I think the cultural aspects here are profoundly important. The blog highlights the cultural shift. It's not just a technology change, and technology provides the tools, framework, but zero trust at its heart is a strategic approach to security. It's a fundamental change in mindset from implicit to explicit verification for every access request. And without that, corresponding cultural transformation, the technology alone, in my opinion, will inevitably fall short. So if users aren't educated, don't buy into the why. If processes aren't re-engineered to support least privilege, if your development practices don't incorporate security at the start, all of these, even when you have the best zero trust technologies in place, they can be circumvented or improperly utilized. So in my view, no, one cannot truly succeed without the other. They are linked and they need to progress in tandem.
The next one is the Department of the Air Force's CIO office recently conducted an extensive deep dive on their zero trust implementation progress. They focused on key areas, including microsegmentation, generation gateway installation, identity, credential, and access management onboarding. What is notable here is the Air Force's systematic approach to meeting the DoD's 2030 27 compliance mandate. They're breaking down this massive undertaking into manageable components while maintaining a cohesive overall strategy, which is very smart. Microsegmentation in particular represents one of the more challenging aspects of zero trust implementation in legacy environments. The fact that they are making progress here is encouraging for other large organizations that are facing similar challenges. Based on your experience, which aspect of zero trust implementation typically presents the biggest challenge for large organizations like the Air Force?
Victor, would you like to go first on this one?
No. Go ahead. You
Okay.
have more experience here.
Yeah. So, and based on my experience and the insights from these updates and interconnected hurdles, there are really four that I would call out. And the first one is legacy systems and technical debt. The sheer scale of existing infrastructure, much of which was not designed with zero trust principles in mind, makes retrofitting and integration, like next generation gateways, ICAM onboarding, all of that incredibly complex and resource intensive. The second one would be operational complexity. So kind of hand in hand there and interoperability and implementing and managing an extremely vast set of tools required for comprehensive zero trust architecture. And ensuring they interoperate effectively across this vast, sprawling enterprises, it's pretty daunting operationally. The third one I would highlight is exactly what we were talking about in a previous article, which is that cultural transformation and a skills gap as well. Shifting that mindset from vast a workforce and ensuring personnel have the skills to manage and operate within a zero trust environment, that requires, sustained and substantial effort. And the fourth one is balancing security with mission velocity. It doesn't matter if we can't accomplish the mission in these environments. Ensuring that robust security measures enhance or at least don't unduly hinder mission effectiveness and operational tempo is a constant balancing act that that the Air Force in this instance is trying to balance.
I'll share my experience and insights based on being in the enterprise side. There's always two parallel streams if you look at from IT or security or innovation at large enterprises. One is the cutting edge, and there's one subset or segment or super users, super admins. They're using the cutting edge, latest and greatest technologies and latest and greatest policies. And there's a vast majority in an enterprise where they're still stuck on the traditional monolithical applications, or they're still stuck on that part. It's never a overnight shift because it's a big ship, right? To turn that, it takes time, torque, and all. And that's where I think a lot of people ignore and just not know the fact where even though you see an enterprise being on this latest and greatest and cutting edge technologies, not the whole enterprise is using it. Enterprise is still stuck there. To that transformation when it comes to zero trust, it's not a middle ground. And that's where a lot of companies and a lot of organizations have failed it. You can't have half of the company following all the zero trust principle and the other half just still doing the same route and super admin and all of those things that they used to do it. And I see the same here as well. The Air Force is making a lot of good progress, but that's a lot of work has been put into it. It's not just overnight that we created a policy and tomorrow everybody's following it.
Great, thank you. Our next article is very interesting. It's from RSA. RSA has made a very bold statement with their latest release titled "Zero Trust Has Zero Chance Without AI." This provocative headline highlights the growing interconnection between artificial intelligence and effective security implementation. The premise here aligns with what we have been seeing in the field as networks become more complex and attacks more sophisticated. No security approaches simply can't keep pace. AI-driven security solutions offer the scale and the speed necessary to implement zero trust effectively. Again, this is my opinion. What's particularly interesting is how AI is moving from being a nice to have security enhancement to an essential component or must have. The volume of access decisions required in a true zero trust environment would overwhelm traditional systems. Do you agree with RSA's statement? Is AI truly essential for zero trust, or is this perhaps overstating the case?
I'll go on this one first and we'll wrap on this one. We'll add more news articles in the show notes, but I think at this point, AI is essential integrated part to every industry, not just security. Yes, since AI is an IT born technology, or call it as whatever the synthesis. So cybersecurity gravitates automatically. But AI is everywhere and the use case is everywhere as well. Yes, I agree. In order to accelerate zero trust journey, accelerate zero trust execution, AI can be an integral part of it. And with AI, now you also have to think about the zero trust principles applying to how you're using AI and how AI is consuming your data and all that. So it's a two-way street when it comes to it. But at the same time, I can have that as a fill in blank where you can be succeeded without AI and fill in your industry, healthcare, e-commerce, travel, hospitality, marketing, you name it, right? It's not just cybersecurity. So that's my take on it. Yes, absolutely. To accelerate zero trust, you need AI, but that also applies to almost everything these days. Zach?
Yeah. I mean, while the foundational principles of zero trust can be applied without sophisticated AI, I think I want to dispel FUD. This is definitely a catchy headline, and it's definitely a provocative headline. The sheer amount of attack surface that's been created through AI necessitates the need to adopt it on the other side. And that's just how security evolves over time. So the speed here, the real-time decision making that's needed, it's nearly impossible without it at a large scale. While zero chance without AI, it might be a strong statement. I think for organizations that are aiming for a mature and adaptive and a truly robust zero trust posture, AI is moving from a nice to have to a need to have.
It's still not must have, it is need to have, right?
I think at the end of the day, organizations have to think about it, how you're using AI one way or the other, and are you applying zero trust principles? Are they applicable? Is it even relevant? So that's something we do it for everything. So if you're using any e-commerce business, you're going to look at your transactions and you're going to say, where do I apply zero trust? If you have a few sites like Starbucks or stores, you're going to look at where do I apply zero trust at the POS level, or do I apply it when the transactions coming to HQ or when they are processed? So that's just like anything else in zero trust. You just got to look at it. Yes, AI is a huge variable now, which can either accelerate your zero trust journey, but also can slow it down because maybe you just ignored the fact that you're using AI or your business is using AI and you just didn't apply zero trust principles there. So it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next article is from Illumio, which they published an interesting piece focusing on breach containment and AI observability within zero trust frameworks. This represents an important evolution in security thinking, acknowledging that breaches will happen and focusing on minimizing their impact. The emphasis on AI observability is particularly noteworthy. Organizations deploy more AI-driven security tools. Having visibility into how these systems make decisions becomes critical for effective implementation and trust in automated security measures. This pragmatic approach to security, focusing on resilience rather than just prevention, shows a maturation of zero trust philosophy that recognizes the reality of today's. How do you see the balance between prevention and containment evolving in security strategies? Are organizations placing enough emphasis on limiting damages when breach happens?
That's a tall order. I think when it comes to breach containment and AI observability, breach containment is still going back to the principles of incident response, where the preparation and AI is now a component of that. When you go through the preparation phase of any incident, AI is a component of that. Now, using AI for the observability and to actually apply it to the current preparation is the key. Zach, I'll let you talk more about it.
Yeah, I think the balance is definitely shifting towards a more realistic and pragmatic approach that gives significant weight to both prevention and containment, which is pretty strongly underscored in the article. And, for years, the primary focus was heavily skewed towards prevention. Castle Moat, just based on that, we can assume that. But with this assume breach mindset, which is an absolute cornerstone of zero trust, we're acknowledging that determined attackers will likely find their way in eventually. Robust containment strategies, especially with AI-driven observability and microsegmentation, they're just as critical as prevention measures. While there's a growing emphasis, continuous effort is still needed to ensure that incident response plans are regularly tested, containment mechanisms can be activated swiftly and effectively when a breach does happen, so that you're able to prevent and respond when that inevitably does occur.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. I think we'll wrap on this one. We have a few other articles we'll put in the show notes. But again, I want to thank every listener tuning in to getting your news dose of Zero Trust. Stay tuned. We'll be posting this every month. You can go to ztjourney.com and listen to the previous episodes and also subscribe to the future ones as well. Elnaz, thank you so much for co-hosting this session with me, and I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on Zero Trust Journey. If this episode sparked new ideas or gave you practical insights, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your network. Your support helps us continue bringing you valuable conversations and real-world stories. We'd love to hear from you. Share your feedback or even your own Zero Trust journey by reaching out to us. Your story could inspire others in the community. Stay tuned for more expert insights, compelling stories, and actionable advice to help you advance your Zero Trust strategy. Until next time, stay curious and keep making progress on your Zero Trust journey. See you in the next episode.